Okay, so I'm going to be doing a series, a build that is using a Millennium Falcon popcorn bucket. These things go for pretty penny online. I've seen everything from like 40 bucks up to 100 bucks online. I looked into this for $10 at my local thrift store. So there's a lot of things I want to do with this. I see that there's little screw holes here, and you look in there and you can see that they're regular Phillip heads. So I'm going to pull it apart and do a couple of fun things with it. One thing that it has is there's already lights here in the back here. So I don't know how well those show up on camera, but they're decent. They're not terribly bright. It might be better if I cover the light. And things are falling. Fantastic. Anyway, let's go to the table and get a little bit closer look here, and then we'll move on with the first part of this project. Alright, so this here is the way it's like when I'm starting, right? So it's so it opens here. This is how the popcorn would be eaten. You see here's all the mumbo jumbo saying who made it and what it's for, Disney parks. And so here's a cool thing. I'm gonna turn the light off for a second. There it goes. And there's a button here. You see, lights up. Pretty cool. I think that the batteries may be dying, and so I might have to replace those. Anyway, so you see it's a good size. It's also not the right size for Star Wars Legion. Now, 1/2 inch to equate 6 feet. So here I have a First Order Trooper friend of mine got for me. She printed that off. I'm pretty happy with it. Still needs to be painted. Don't judge that painting. So if you look, he is clearly bigger than, say, would be appropriate. If we look at the cockpit specifically, if there's supposed to be 4 seats for 4 people in there, no, that's not going to work. This is clearly too small. However, I feel that on the table and with figures around it and on it, it'll still be fun to have on a table. It'll get you that iconic look, that iconic feel, that hey, I'm still a child playing with toys kind of thing. Here's part of my thought on this is, even though the scale is off and that might be rough for some people, to put an actual Legion scale Falcon on the table would be oppressively large. It would be enormous. I mean, this whole area here would have to be like 6 inches or something crazy. Would it be a fun build? Would it be a cool thing to do? Yes, absolutely. But if I'm just trying to populate an interesting table with buildings and stuff, and I happen to have this Falcon, that's where and what I plan to do with this. Is it'll be on the table, and you'll be able to hide behind it and get up on it, and it'll be able to hide some decent size movements behind it. And then of course it's going to be slightly taller once I get those feet on it, and so then there will be a little bit more cover for, say, like a tank or a guy in a dewback or something. In fact, here we go, guy in a dewback, right? Once this is in place and it's got its thing, there's a guy that's back here on this back side may have to, I don't know, maybe I can see him, maybe not, who knows. Anyway, so it's pretty good size here. I mean, as we kind of lay it up here, it says it's about 17 inches. And, the other way we're going to give it, 13, give or take. So it's an alright size thing as is. One fantastic thing is, you see here we've got all these little screw holes. Now the screw holes tell me I can pull it off. And then, I don't know how well you can tell on the camera there, but it's a regular Phillips head screwdriver. So this is going to be able to be taken apart. So mandible lights, probably going to do that. Detailing some more in there on the surface here, just to have it a little bit more detail. I'm considering a ramp just to have that open, because if it's just landing, if it's just sitting there, and like people are moving around it, that might be an interesting thing to be able to hide a little bit on the ramp and recreate your favorite scenes. So, all right, that's the quick review of the actual Falcon as it is now that I got from the thrift store. Right out the gate, I do a lot of recycled things here and repurpose things. So these are chopsticks. This particular restaurant I get them from has this little carved detail, just something to grab paint. It's pretty nice. Chunk of dowel rod. That's a little bigger around than a pencil. Hobby store. This is clearly just an offcut from some other project I had. There is then going to be soda caps. These are from Coca-Cola, I believe. Anyway, so we're doing 4 feet. We'll need 4 of those. Then there are small clothespins. These are not really for clothes. These are hobby, craft. I got a baggie of them here from this or that. Isn't that great? Anyway, at the dollar store, a bunch of them. They're not all great, but they're good enough. Then bootlace. If you look real close, that's a nice woven texture that will also grab paint really well for you. So that's nice. Bit of old charger cord. We all have a dead one somewhere. Just chop the pieces off so you never plug it in again. It's kind of gratifying if the thing's been giving you problems to just chop it to pieces. Die, die, die! Anyway, so there's that. And then a bit of food packaging. Now, this food packaging, I really kind of liked this kind of detail on it. And I wanted to keep a little bit of a surface there. And you'll see why as I show you what I did to make that landing gear. So, all these pieces, let's move that all over to the side. So the first thing that you do is take, or that I did here, is take one of the caps here, sand that back off, and then clean it with a little bit of alcohol. And then I figured that I would take these, and it looks like there's already a couple of broken ones in there, so we'll grab those out first. You're ruining my show! Anyway, so you need 3 of these. You're just easy enough to pop that apart. Save the spring, you can use that for something later. And then you lay these together about like so. And just regular Elmer's glue, regular wood glue will hold that together. And then this is kind of one of my cheats for a nice little foot. Now, yeah, I see that gouge in there. That's okay, we're not using this. So once you have these 2 pieces, you glue them together. And I am using super glue here, but yeah, you glue that together. And you know, you can see that's already kind of a nice little foot. So the next thing here is to take that chunk of dowel rod, and you're gonna cut off a piece that is right close to 1.5 inches. So here's a grid on the mat, you know, 1.5 inches. I cut that with my little handy dandy hobby saw again, and then I glued it to one of the chopsticks. Now, once you got it glued to the chopstick like that, we're going to take glue and we're just going to put a bunch of it just right in the center here. And then we're going to take that piece and we're just going to put it kind of in the center. Now, it doesn't take terribly long for that to set. It is for me right now because I'm filming. This stuff, Insta-set, this stuff is great. So, it does exactly what it sounds like it does. We're going to go ahead and put that foot back in, all gacked up with that super glue. And hold it more or less in the center. And that's something that is why I left the full chopstick on there. And then probably asking, why are you not using the pump, you silly man? So here's what happens is the pump gives you a mist that you only can control so much. But once that little hose there is loaded, you can go ahead and depress this and it'll drop a couple of full droplets, not mist, but droplets in there. And look, it's already ready to go, right? Nice and simple. And then you can move on with the project and not have to worry about, oh, maybe I'm going to get it off center because I'm waiting for the glue to dry. Oh darn, it's not center. Anyway, so now that that's done, you can go ahead and okay. Now, if you feel like you gotta sand that a little bit, just go ahead and give it a little bit there. Okay. Now, this is where I bring back this food packaging. Food packaging can be a fantastic source for inexpensive materials that you can use in a lot of different ways to give your builds texture, and it can help a whole lot. So this little guy, now you're going to look, this was a weird little recessed lid on the top of something here. I don't need this edge. This material, however, is soft enough that you can cut it with just about any kind of pair of scissors. And to make my point, I have a pair of these kids round-tipped, useless for lot kind of scissors. So I'm just going to cut exactly at that line all the way along. Now I have already got a few of the feet already made here, so I've kind of refined this process a little bit here. So there's that, okay, and then the depth, so this is going to end up being like so. But I don't want to hide all of my foot there, right? Look how deep that is. So that little area is only going to be about a 1/2 inch. So here's what we're going to do is go ahead and trim this round off. In fact, I'm going to cut right close to it, and then I'll have a straight little edge to start with there. So let's just kind of do that first. Okay, and then after looking a bit of thinking and digging, I determined that really, if the foot has to come out of it, it has to be a similar size. So what is our foot size? Our foot size is close to 2 inches, so I'm just going to call that close to 2 inches. So let's go ahead and just kind of trim there. Now, just going to put a quick little mark there. Oh, I just lost my light. Oh well. There you go. I'm going to stop the video here and get the light back. Okay, so the foot trimmed now, and then we'll have about a 2 foot, as you can see here, it's about 2 inch by 2 inch. We don't want it quite that wide, but close, so the distance is 2 inches. I've already cut this piece to kind of make that foot. Thing is though, I only want it about a 1/2 inch deep. So for the 1/2 inch deep, more straight than I drew that line, then we have a nice little piece here. Now, this piece needs to be sanded here a little bit. So, now that's going to help with the next thing we're going to do, which is gluing. Now, on this same packaging, blah, 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 blah. Okay. The same food packaging that I got these pieces off that I'm using also came with the lid, of course. The lid gives you a nice, big, broad, clear sheet. No logos or anything to worry about here. You can just get pieces to work with there just like it's raw material. And then you take this and put a piece across the top of that so that it helps fill in this gap here. So I've already done that here, and you can see that that is right in line with that piece. So this cut being a little rough won't matter. That's going to be glued to the bottom of the ship, so this is fine. So we're going to take that glue again and just put a goodly amount. Doesn't have to be a lot. It just has to be enough to hold this together for right now. And that almost instantly holds as is. But if you're concerned about it not holding quickly enough, you of course can take this stuff again. And this time, right on that edge where that seam is, you put a drop there, and that's going to be sucked into that distance in here, in between there, by what we call the capillary effect. Alright, so we got your quote-unquote doors. So we now need to glue the foot in. So we're going to take our glue again and put another kind of happy amount there. And while that's still liquid, let's go ahead and open that setter again. And more or less in center. More or less in center. Again, doesn't have to be exactly perfect, just enough. And there. So that part is now done. So, okay, so at this point you have a fairly well assembled landing gear. It's got some interesting detail. It is a close approximation to what the Falcon has. No, it is not perfect. I'm not aiming for perfect. Besides, on the table, this isn't really going to be seen all that much. It's going to be under the overall ship, but close enough. If there's going to be any pictures that are like along the side of the Falcon there with your minis. So the next piece is the cabling. So here we're going to get about 1.5 inch to maybe 2-inch piece of the shoelace, of the bootlace. So let's see here. It's about there. Alright, and then you're going to see that this is kind of frayed and isn't that good looking. So we're going to take a lighter and heat it up and then just kind of flatten your hand a little bit. Yes, it's hot. Yes, it's hot. Now you'll notice I didn't let this become on fire before slamming it into my hand. And if you want a little bit of a barrier, a little bit of something to help like not hurt you there, just lick it. It doesn't have to be a lot, just lick it. This is old Boy Scout stuff. This is, and then what this does is this creates a nice tight little flat area that we're going to glue. Now we're going to do the other side as well. Just kind of a little bit of fire. And palm your hand again. Yeah, you can use the table. There's other things. Maybe I'm not doing it the best way, but... Alright, so we now have the piece made. Got your little flat edges on each side. And we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue right in this little area. Oh, well, that's more than a little. And we're going to lay the edge right in that little piece. And then we're going to take and just put another bit of that accelerator right there on it, and then that'll set that nice and solid. And we're going to take this other one, and we're going to imply that there's something going on way over here now. So we're going to glue it into this corner between that detail and up in here. So we're going to put the glue there this time. And if it gets a little bit of a twist in there, or it gets a little bit of a loop, that's okay. That's actually what we're looking for, is a little bit of more character there. And you can see that that's got some of that glue on it already. And we'll put another little bit of the accelerator. Alright, and then you've got one more loop in there. Now we're going to do a similar kind of thing with this stuff. Now, this is a bit of wire again from charger cord, a smartphone charger cord. I cut way more than I'm going to need there, and we're going to glue that in a similar capacity. We're going to take this time and glue it next to this one. And then we're going to figure out where we want it here. Maybe we'll put it in that same kind of place on the back here. We'll put it like right in there. So that tells us we're going to want to cut it about here then. And then we'll do the same steps again. Glue. Kind of place it up in there. This wire is a little bit more feisty, so I'm actually going to hold it a bit more. And there, that's in place now. So now we're getting some nice little loopy details on there that kind of imply there's some pressure hoses or pneumatics or something that helps us go up and down. And as we see in the movies, when they land, there's always some amount of steam shooting out of it or what have you. So the only thing that I haven't done on this one is add the bit of bendy straw. I don't know that every piece of it needs it. I think there's enough detail on that for right now. So I'm going to show you how I prep to paint, and I will be right back with those pieces. Here we go. Okay, so I've shown you this trick in another video. This is a piece of just a painter stick with some painter's tape taped on in such a way that there's some tacky up, right? And then we're going to take, and because this is the part that will be glued to the ship, it's not going to be painted. So just go ahead and put it on the blue part. Clearly I'm reusing the one I had painted on before. And we go ahead and put a nice firm, and then you see that'll give you the ability to move it around, to like paint it from the angle I want. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and paint this and be right back. And presto, it's white. Check that out. This is in fact, as I'm showing you, it's white. It's still very tacky and won't be ready to move on to the next thing. Nothing to do for that. All you gotta do is wait. It takes a little bit, but I have already moved along. This, just leaving the frame right there for a moment, I've got the other feet already. So yeah, I did have another bit of bendy straw in this one. But you see, once that white is dried, you go ahead and do the rust and the dirty, and then because it goes up into the ship, this area I just kind of put a matte black on. I probably will do one more coat on there before I really get too far as gluing in place. But ultimately, I'll probably be painting the whole thing in more detail as I go anyway. You'll note that there is no paint here. You just kind of see the whole ugly of the stuff glued together and all that raw. That's so that this can then be glued directly to the Falcon as it is. Anyway, so this has so far been the feet, how I built the feet, and I do have 4 now. So we got those 2, and this one, and then the one that we still have drying. So I'm going to let everything dry. I'm going to fish painting up that one, and I'm going to then go ahead and glue them to the Falcon. Now you'll note, again, no paint, so this should just glue pretty straightforward. And then I'm making sure that I'm having them oriented roughly the same way and glued in roughly the same place on both of those pads. And this big pad is where I'm then going to put the other 2. This one's ready, so we're just going to glue it in place.
And here we have the beauty shot, kind of a low angle on the Falcon, kind of giving you a specialty angle on those landing gear. I think it looks pretty good. Clearly the whole thing needs to be painted, but that'll happen when it's actually done. And on the shelf with no figures in the way. So I'm pretty happy with the result here. It looks like some good little landing gear and doors there. And they were able to be made with easy to come by materials. So this will be the end of part 1 out of I'm not sure how many parts. I do want to thank you for hanging out here to the end. And of course, I'm going to ask that you subscribe, share, like, all those things. And if you like the build, go ahead and comment. Thank you.